It wasn't the tentacles that made it awkward, it was the fact that Glebe screamed like a kettle every time I accidentally brushed his appendage. I'd just moved in, barely unpacked, and already, my new alien roommate was making noises that could summon every neighbor within a 5-block radius. "Careful!" he yelped, his bright blue tentacle recoiling like I'd just insulted its mother. "That's my, sensory limb." Great. Day 1, and I'd groped the alien equivalent of a butt cheek. Look, I didn't ask for this. The government thought shoving humans and aliens into shared housing was some grand step toward universal unity. They called it the Species Integration Initiative. I called it an HR violation waiting to happen. But rent was subsidized, and I couldn't argue with the price. Besides, how bad could it be? Turns out very bad. Glebe, my gelatinous, tentacled roommate, was a walking parody of alien clichés, complete with glowing orbs on his head and a voice that sounded like a kazoo with asthma. First impressions were rough. I walked into the apartment, arms full of boxes, to find him cooking something. It looked like fluorescent soup but smelled like burnt rubber dipped in vinegar. He turned, tentacles waving excitedly, and let out a high-pitched greeting that almost shattered my eardrums. "Welcome, Human Joe! I have prepared nourishment to mark our cohabitation bonding." There was no way I was eating that. I faked a smile. Thanks. I just ate." Glebe's glowing orbs dimmed slightly. "Oh. A shame. This dish is rich in nutrients and specifically tailored to ensure harmonious pheromone exchange." What the hell did that even mean? I nodded and quickly shuffled to my room, locking the door for good measure. Living with Glebe was like being in a constant state of confusion. He had these weird habits, like hanging his tentacles out the window to air dry, which apparently was an alien equivalent of meditation. Then there was the ultraviolet light cooking. I'd walk into the kitchen and see him zapping raw meat with a handheld device that looked like a prop from a bad sci-fi movie. He'd offer me a taste, and I'd politely decline, grabbing a granola bar instead. I couldn't tell if he was offended or relieved. The first major incident happened 3 days in. I was rummaging in the kitchen, trying to find a coffee mug that wasn't slimy, when it happened. My elbow accidentally grazed one of his tentacles. A wave of warmth shot up my arm, and suddenly, I was seeing colors that didn't exist. The walls seemed to melt, and Glebe's voice became a chorus of angelic whispers. I staggered back, blinking furiously. What the hell was that? I managed to choke out. Glebe looked mortified. "Oh no! You've triggered my bonding pheromones. How embarrassing!" He reached out, as if to comfort me, but I flinched away. "Don't touch me. I'm already seeing sound." Once the hallucinations wore off, I had questions. Lots of them. "Why didn't you warn me that touching you was like licking an alien acid tab?" I snapped. Glebe wrung his tentacles nervously. "I assumed humans knew. It's common knowledge on my planet." I groaned. "Yeah, well, Earth doesn't exactly have a guidebook for living with glow-in-the-dark calamari." Glebe brightened, or at least his orbs did. "I could write one for you." I stared at him. "No, that's not necessary." He looked disappointed, but I wasn't about to encourage him. Things escalated that evening. Still reeling from the tentacle touch acid trip, I decided to unwind with a beer. Glebe was in the living room, hovering, literally, over the couch. He didn't sit, his species apparently found chairs offensive. I ignored him and opened my laptop to scroll mindlessly. That's when I remembered the video. In my pheromone-induced haze, I'd recorded a short clip of the incident. It was mostly me laughing hysterically while Glebe flailed his tentacles, shrieking something about unintentional contact. For some reason, I thought it would be funny to share. I uploaded it with the caption, "Living with aliens, it's not what you think." I figured a couple of friends would laugh, maybe leave some sarcastic comments. What I didn't expect was for the video to go viral overnight. By the time I woke up, my phone was vibrating nonstop with notifications. I groggily unlocked it and nearly choked on my coffee. The video had over 2 million views. The comment section was a war zone. Is this what humans call foreplay? One user asked. Another chimed in, this is why aliens think we're weird. A third declared, honestly? I'd date Glebe. I scrolled in horror as the likes kept climbing. Glebe, oblivious, was in the kitchen, happily zapping breakfast with his UV gun. Glebe, I said slowly, holding up my phone. We have a problem. He looked up, tentacles twitching. Oh no! Did I over-pheromone the apartment again? I sighed. Worse. We're famous. He tilted his head, or at least I think he did. It was hard to tell with all the tentacles. Famous? That's wonderful. My people value notoriety as a sign of success. I groaned. Yeah, well, humans value privacy, and now everyone thinks we're doing things. Glebe's orbs flashed pink. Doing things? Like interspecies bonding? Oh, what an honor! I slapped a hand over my face. No, Glebe. Not an honor. A nightmare. And that's how I found myself trying to explain internet culture to an alien who thought viral fame was the pinnacle of achievement. Glebe was fascinated by the concept of memes. So humans use humor to process discomfort? That's delightful. He wanted to read all the comments, but I refused. Some things weren't meant for innocent alien eyes, or tentacles. Still, the damage was done. By the end of the day, our faces, or rather, my face and Glebe's many appendages, were plastered across every social media platform with headlines like, Man and Alien Redefine Roommate Goals. It was going to be a long week. The video spread like wildfire, much faster than I could contain it. By mid-morning, my inbox was flooded. Friends, coworkers, strangers, everyone had something to say. A message from my boss read, asterisk. Interesting lifestyle choice, Joe. Let's have a talk Monday. Asterisk, I didn't even want to open my family group chat. Glebe, meanwhile, was practically bouncing, or hovering, with joy. So many humans are interested in me. This is wonderful. Should I send them a bonding invitation? No, Glebe, I snapped, scrolling through the deluge of comments. Most of them don't even know what bonding means. They think we're, I trailed off, not wanting to explain the implications of the word, intimate, to someone whose species reproduced by budding. Glebe tilted his head. They think we're, what? His orbs pulsed a confused green. Mating? I choked on my coffee. Yes. Exactly that. And now I have to live with the fact that the internet thinks I'm in some kind of kinky interspecies relationship with my roommate. Glebe processed this for a moment, then brightened. But isn't that a compliment? It means they see us as compatible. I stared at him, trying to decide if he was serious. It's not a compliment, Glebe. It's a PR disaster. And speaking of disasters, I think I need to delete the video before this gets worse. When I opened the app to take it down, the damage had already been done. Major accounts had shared it, memes were circulating, and a trending hashtag #HumanAlienLove, was gaining traction. Deleting it now would be like trying to stop a flood with a napkin. Glebe leaned over my shoulder, his tentacles invading my personal space. Look! This one says, Glebe and Joe forever. What does that mean? Is it a title of honor? I groaned. It's a shipping tag, Glebe. People are imagining us, together. Oh! His voice rose an octave, and his orbs flashed pink again. Should I provide clarification? I could explain that our bonding is purely platonic and involves pheromonal exchanges, not physical interaction. I stared at him in horror. No! Do not explain bonding. That will only make things worse. Glebe tilted his head confused, but didn't press the issue. Then came the emails. Somehow, someone had tracked down my contact information. One was from a self-proclaimed human-alien relationship expert who wanted us on her podcast. Another was an offer from a reality TV producer pitching a series called Tentacle Roommates. The one that caught my attention, though, was from an adult entertainment company. Their proposal was simple: $10,000 to create an educational, video about human-alien cohabitation. When I told Glebe, he was ecstatic. We could use the money to improve the apartment. I could finally buy a pheromone filtration system. I buried my head in my hands. Glebe, that's not the point. They don't want an educational video. They want. I hesitated, trying to find a way to explain adult content to an alien who thought a firm handshake was a mating ritual. Glebe waited expectantly, his tentacles quivering. Let's just say they're not looking for a TED Talk. To my horror, he didn't seem deterred. But humans value humor and education. We could combine those elements and create something truly memorable. I could even prepare a script. No! I cut him off, my voice a little too loud. We're not doing it. End of discussion. Glebe's orbs dimmed, and for a moment, I felt guilty. But there was no way I was going to end up as the face of some bizarre interspecies fetish movement. By the next day, things had spiraled further. News outlets were reporting on the video, each with their own sensational spin. One headline read, asterisk, "Man bonds with alien in unprecedented display of unity." Asterisk another claimed I was part of a secret government experiment. A particularly unhinged article suggested I was an alien in disguise, infiltrating humanity. Glebe found it all endlessly entertaining. "Look, Joe! They think you're one of us. How flattering!" "It's not flattering," I snapped. "It's insane. People will believe anything." As if to prove my point, a conspiracy theorist uploaded a video analyzing my facial expressions, claiming they were too symmetrical to be human. It had 500,000 views in an hour. "See?" I said, gesturing to the screen. "This is why humans can't have nice things." The final straw came when a government representative showed up at our apartment. She was a no-nonsense woman in a crisp suit, flanked by two men who looked like they bench-pressed elephants for fun. "Mr. Joe," she began, her tone icy. "Do you have any idea the diplomatic incident your little stunt has caused?" "It wasn't a stunt," I protested. "It was an accident. And why is the government even involved?" She glared at me, then turned to Glebe, who was hovering nervously by the couch. "Your bonding pheromones have been classified as a biohazard under Section 42 of the Intergalactic Housing Act." Glebe's orbs flashed a horrified purple. "A biohazard? But they're perfectly harmless." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Tell that to the 4 journalists who passed out during a live broadcast after entering this apartment." I winced. "That's not great." Glebe fidgeted with his tentacles, looking genuinely distressed. "I had no idea humans were so sensitive. On my planet, pheromones are considered a gift." "Be that as it may," the woman said. "If another incident occurs, you'll both be evicted. Permanently." With that, she handed me a stack of paperwork, muttered something about liability clauses, and left. Glebe slumped onto the floor, or rather, his version of slumping, which involved deflating slightly. "I've ruined everything," he said miserably. "You hate me now, don't you?" I sighed. As much as I wanted to blame him for the mess, it wasn't entirely his fault. "I don't hate you, Glebe. I'm just overwhelmed. This whole situation is overwhelming." He brightened a little. "So, you don't want to terminate our cohabitation agreement?" I managed a small smile. "No, Glebe. We'll figure this out. Somehow." Just as I thought things might calm down, my phone buzzed with a new notification. It was an email from the adult entertainment company. They'd upped their offer to $20,000. Glebe peeked over my shoulder and gasped. "Joe! That's enough to buy a state-of-the-art pheromone neutralizer." I groaned. It was going to be a very long week. By the time I'd managed to regain some sense of normalcy, the world around us had taken our viral fame and run with it in directions I couldn't have predicted. Social media was now flooded with fan art of me and Glebe in increasingly bizarre, and highly inappropriate, situations. One particularly popular illustration had us reenacting the infamous pottery wheel scene from Ghost, except Glebe's tentacles were doing all the work while I looked dreamily into his glowing orbs. I nearly threw my phone across the room when I saw it. Glebe, of course, was delighted. Joe! Look at this! They've captured my good side. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Glebe, you don't have a good side. You're a blob. With tentacles. There are no sides. He ignored my grumbling, scrolling through the fan art with a level of pride that bordered on unsettling. I never knew humans were so creative. I must share these with my family back home. Don't you dare, I muttered, snatching the phone away before he could send intergalactic postcards of my humiliation. But Glebe was undeterred. I feel like we've brought joy to so many. Isn't that what humans strive for? I glared at him. No, humans strive for a quiet life where they're not mistaken for alien fetishists. Thank you very much. Then came the sponsorship deal. The adult entertainment company, undeterred by my earlier refusal, sent over a detailed contract, complete with creative pitches for a tasteful yet sensual series about human-alien cohabitation. I didn't even bother reading past the title of the first episode, *, Tentacles of Desire, *. I tried to ignore it, but Glebe had other ideas. Joe, this could be our chance to educate humanity about interspecies understanding. Think of it as a cultural exchange. I shot him a look. Glebe, they don't want a cultural exchange. They want to watch us reenact softcore alien erotica. He paused, his orbs flickering thoughtfully. Well, why can't it be both? The only saving grace in all of this was the money. The offer had climbed to an obscene amount, and despite every shred of dignity screaming at me to walk away, I couldn't stop thinking about my mounting credit card debt and the increasingly desperate emails from my landlord. Glebe seemed to sense my hesitation. If it helps, I could do most of the performing, he offered, wiggling his tentacles in what I assumed was meant to be reassuring. It wasn't. Against my better judgment, I agreed to at least hear out their pitch. The production team arrived the next day, a mix of slick executives and overly enthusiastic creatives armed with cameras and storyboards. Glebe greeted them like long-lost friends, offering snacks that no human could safely consume. I stayed in the background, praying this would all somehow end without further embarrassment. It didn't. Within minutes, they'd started brainstorming scenes, each one more ridiculous than the last. What if Joe teaches Glebe about human romance by reading him poetry under the stars? One producer suggested. And then Glebe responds with his species equivalent of a love song, which involves, what exactly? Glebe perked up. Oh. We release pheromones in sync with our mating dance. It's quite moving. I slammed my hand on the table. No mating dances. No synchronized pheromones. This isn't the Notebook, Tentacle Edition. The team exchanged nervous glances, clearly unsure how to proceed. Glebe, however, seemed undeterred. Perhaps we could compromise. What if I demonstrate our bonding ritual in a purely educational context? One producer's eyes lit up. Yes. Educational. We could frame it as a deep dive into interspecies relationships. Very tasteful, very intimate. I groaned. You people don't know the meaning of the word tasteful. Filming began later that afternoon, and to my horror, it wasn't nearly as professional as I'd hoped. The crew kept suggesting increasingly absurd scenarios, from reenacting romantic movie clichés to cooking sensual meals together. Glebe, bless his oblivious heart, took it all in stride. At one point, he even tried feeding me a glowing blue tentacle that he claimed was a delicacy on his planet. It's safe for humans, I promise, he said cheerfully. I pushed it away. Hard pass. The worst part, though, was the script. They'd written dialogue for us, and it was bad. Really bad. Lines like, "Your tentacles have such a firm yet gentle touch," and, "Joe, I never realized humans were so flexible." I refused to say any of it, which led to a heated argument with the director. Glebe, ever the diplomat, tried to smooth things over. "Perhaps we could improvise? Joe is very witty when he's frustrated." The crew loved the idea. I hated it. But by that point, I was too exhausted to fight anymore. We spent the rest of the day filming unscripted scenes that mostly involved me looking annoyed while Glebe enthusiastically narrated his human observations. At one point, he compared my posture to that of a seductive eel. I didn't even ask what that meant. By the end of the shoot, I was ready to crawl into bed and never come out. Glebe, on the other hand, was glowing, literally. Today was wonderful, wasn't it? I feel like we really captured the essence of our bond. I stared at him, too tired to argue. Sure, Glebe. Whatever you say. The next morning, the video was uploaded. I braced myself for the backlash, but to my surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. People loved it. They called it wholesome, hilarious, and surprisingly heartfelt. Glebe was ecstatic. See, Joe? I told you we could bring joy to humanity. I didn't have the heart to tell him that most of the comments were still about the tentacles. The fallout from the video's release was both predictable and overwhelming. Overnight, we'd gone from interspecies oddities to full-blown celebrities. News outlets praised us for bridging cultural divides, while others speculated about our personal lives with an enthusiasm that bordered on obsession. Fans flooded our inbox with requests ranging from marriage proposals to invitations to alien-themed bachelor parties. One particularly bold email simply read, Glebe, step on me with your tentacles. Sincerely, a devoted fan. Glebe, of course, was thriving. He'd taken to the spotlight with the kind of enthusiasm that only an alien completely unaware of human social taboos could muster. Joe, did you see this one? He asked, holding up a fan-made plushie of himself. They even included my glow patterns. Isn't that delightful? I stared at the plushie, which was disturbingly accurate, down to the tiny suction cups on the tentacles. Yeah, Glebe. Delightful. That's definitely the word I'd use. But not everyone was thrilled about our newfound fame. A rival influencer, a self-proclaimed expert in human-alien relations, released a scathing takedown video accusing us of exploiting interspecies dynamics for clout. What Joe and Glebe are doing isn't about unity, she declared, her tone dripping with self-righteousness. It's about feeding into humanity's voyeuristic tendencies. They've turned something beautiful into a sideshow. Glebe was devastated. Do they really think we're a sideshow? He asked, his orbs dimming to a sorrowful blue. I sighed, wishing I could punch an influencer through a screen. No, Glebe. They're just jealous. Don't let it get to you. But it was clear that it had. He spent the rest of the day moping around the apartment, his usual cheerfulness replaced by a melancholy that even his UV cooking lamp couldn't fix. As if that wasn't enough, the government decided to get involved again. A stern letter arrived, informing us that our recent activities had raised concerns about intergalactic diplomatic relations, and that we were required to attend a hearing to address the matter. A hearing? I groaned, slumping onto the couch. What are they going to do? Fine us for being too popular? Glebe, ever the optimist, tried to see the bright side. Perhaps this is an opportunity to showcase the strength of our bond. They'll see how well humans and my species can coexist. I wasn't so sure. The last time the government got involved, we'd almost been evicted for biohazard violations. This time, I had a sinking feeling it would be worse. The hearing took place in a sterile, gray building that looked like it had been designed by someone with a deep hatred of joy. The room was packed with officials, reporters, and a few overly enthusiastic fans holding signs that read, We love Glebe! I tried to ignore them as we were led to a table at the front of the room. Glebe, however, waved at the crowd like a pageant queen. So many supporters! He whispered to me. This is going to go great! It did not go great. The lead official, a humorless man with a face like a brick, opened the hearing by listing our violations, which included everything from unregulated pheromone distribution to unauthorized interspecies bonding demonstrations. Glebe listened intently, his orbs flickering with what I assumed was concentration. I, on the other hand, was struggling not to laugh at the sheer absurdity of it all. When it was finally our turn to speak, Glebe took the lead. Honored officials, he began, his tone as earnest as ever. I understand that my actions may have caused some confusion among humans, but my intentions have always been pure. I only wish to share the beauty of my culture and learn from yours in return. He paused, his tentacles gesturing emphatically. Isn't that the purpose of the Species Integration Initiative? To bring us closer together? There was a moment of silence, and for a brief second, I thought he might actually be getting through to them. Then the brick-faced official cleared his throat. While your intentions may be admirable, the fact remains that your actions have caused significant disruptions. We cannot overlook the consequences. Before I could stop myself, I spoke up. What consequences? All we've done is exist in the same apartment and accidentally go viral. How is that our fault? The official glared at me. Your video has led to public unrest, inappropriate speculation, and... He hesitated, as if struggling to find the right words. An increase in alien-themed adult content that violates several intergalactic treaties. I blinked. You're blaming us for alien porn? Seriously? Glebe looked genuinely confused. But isn't imitation the sincerest form of flattery? Shouldn't that be a good thing? The room erupted into whispers, and I had to resist the urge to bury my head in my hands. In the end, the hearing concluded with a warning: any further incidents would result in severe consequences, though they refused to elaborate on what that meant. As we left the building, Glebe seemed uncharacteristically quiet. Do you think we failed, Joe? He asked softly. Have we brought shame to our species? I stopped in my tracks, turning to face him. No, Glebe. We haven't failed. If anything, we've shown people that humans and aliens can coexist, even if it's messy and weird and occasionally involves tentacles. His orbs brightened slightly. You really think so? I nodded. Yeah. Now let's go home. I think we've earned a break. The break didn't last long. By the time we got back to the apartment, a new wave of messages had flooded in, including one from a major network offering us a reality show deal. Glebe was ecstatic. Joe! Think of the possibilities! We could educate even more people! I groaned. No, Glebe. No more videos, no more shows, no more anything. We're done. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Glebe had a way of dragging me into chaos, and deep down, I didn't really mind. Sure, our lives were a mess, but they were our mess. And as much as I hated to admit it, I wouldn't have it any other way.